Who would be?
What?
Sabrina? No.
On live television, Sophie Cunningham fearlessly called out the fever president, refusing to soften a single word. What she revealed sent shockwaves far beyond anyone's expectations, sparking immediate chaos behind the scenes as tension erupted throughout the front office. Music. If you're enjoying this content, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Surprisingly, more than 83% of the people watching still haven't subscribed. It costs absolutely nothing and takes only a single second. Music. Yet your support makes an incredible difference and helps us continue bringing you stories like this. So, have you subscribed yet? If you have, thank you sincerely for being part of our community. Now, let's dive back into the story.
Oh, this game is boring. It's not good basketball. Then all of a sudden, everything got spicy. Everything got negative. We need to talk about it. You guys, this is my live reaction.
But this is far more than just another viral moment. Music. It has exploded into a full-scale reckoning, exposing troubling silence, raising uncomfortable questions, and unraveling into a cultural firestorm that nobody saw coming. I have the evidence, the fallout, and every shocking detail behind what really happened.
But when people try to argue that she's not the face of our league, or if our league would be where we're at without her, you're dumb as shit.
Yeah.
You're literally dumb as fuck.
You guys played at Iowa.
What was supposed to be nothing more than a routine post-game interview quickly turned into something no one could have predicted. No controversy, no headlines. Music, just another microphone, another player, and another standard media session. But in less than 15 seconds, Sophie Cunningham stepped forward and shattered the silence with a statement that instantly changed the conversation. If you don't think Caitlin Clark is the face of this league, Music, you're stupid. It wasn't just a quote designed to grab attention. It was a direct verbal strike. No hesitation, no sugarcoating. Music, just pure conviction delivered with explosive force. In that moment, the WNBA was no longer just about basketball. It felt like the league had been thrown into the middle of an all-out civil war. Because this wasn't simply an opinion. Music. It was a challenge aimed straight at the veterans who critics believe have dismissed Clark from the very beginning, and a pointed message to executives accused of hiding behind carefully crafted PR statements and public silence. With the league already facing enormous pressure, that single moment became a flashing warning sign. Within minutes, the internet, Music, exploded. TikTok was flooded with dramatic edits that spread like wildfire. Twitter threads transformed Sophie into a fearless symbol of resistance. Instagram filled up with memes, reels, and emotional tributes celebrating her willingness to speak out. Fans began calling her the enforcer, the bodyguard, and the last true fighter. But there's one part of this story that almost no one is talking about. It wasn't the viral soundbite that mattered most. It was the raw honesty behind it. The feeling that someone inside the league had finally grown tired of the fake smiles, carefully managed narratives, and empty displays of respect. Cunningham wasn't simply defending Caitlin Clark anymore. She was willingly stepping into the fire right beside her. Music, meanwhile, the Fever's front office once again chose silence. As Sophie spoke with the heart of a warrior, Indiana's leadership reportedly found itself scrambling to manage the growing public reaction after one of its own appeared to ignite a rebellion in real time. And from the outside looking in, they didn't seem to have a clear answer for what would come next. Music. But before we go any further, make sure to hit the like button if Sophie's comments resonated with you or sparked a reaction. The louder this conversation becomes, the harder it will be for the league to ignore. Let's make sure this story continues to be heard.
I got her, but at the very end, and I'm not saying this is what caused it, but she dipped a little bit.
Yeah.
But she did dip. And then right when I saw, I was like, oh shit, like my bad. Not really my bad. And then they both came out and I was like, fuck it, come.
Did you get fined for that?
Yeah, like $900, which like our fines are a joke.
The coolest part about that fight is that your face.
I didn't care.
You already know what game we're talking about. Everyone does. Indiana versus Connecticut. Music. Caitlin Clark had just taken another hard hit, this time involving J.C. Sheldon. For many fans, it felt painfully familiar. It wasn't the first time Clark had absorbed heavy contact, and many believed it wouldn't be the last. But what unfolded next completely changed the tone of the night. Music. Sophie Cunningham didn't wait for the officials to step in. She took matters into her own hands. Charging into the moment, she grabbed Sheldon and sent a powerful message with a forceful confrontation that instantly stunned everyone watching. Music. It wasn't simply about physical contact. It was a statement. The crowd fell silent. The commentators struggled to process what they had just witnessed, and the referees immediately handed Sophie a $900 fine. According to reports, Sophie simply laughed and responded, "That's it," as if the penalty was a small price to pay for standing up for a teammate. Within seconds, the clip exploded across social media. Slow-motion replays flooded Twitter before the game had even cooled down. Music, nearly every caption echoed the same message: protect the queen. But the viral replay didn't tell the entire story. The most meaningful moment reportedly happened afterward. Inside the locker music room, Caitlin looked at Sophie and quietly said, "Finally." Not "thank you." Not "I appreciate it." Just one simple word. Finally. It sounded less like gratitude and more like relief after months of taking hard hits, absorbing criticism, and pushing through constant physical play. Sophie met her eyes and answered with 4 powerful words. "I got you." No cameras, music, no carefully prepared statements, no public relations spin. Just 2 teammates sharing a genuine moment built on trust and loyalty. Music. By then, the story had grown far beyond basketball. Caitlin Clark was no longer viewed as just another player on the court. To many, she had become a symbol. And Sophie Cunningham was no longer seen as only a teammate. She had become a rallying point for fans who believed someone had finally taken a stand. That single act of defiance drew a line in the sand for the Fever. Music. It became a choice between standing together or standing aside. After a moment like that and a response like Sophie's, returning to business as usual suddenly felt impossible. For many, unity became the only path forward. Music. The battle lines had been drawn, and the message was impossible to miss. Either stand up for each other or risk standing alone.
Believe people are doing this. 2 Caitlin Clark teammates weren't jumping in there. They bring in Sophie Cunningham. I had no idea. Sophie Cunningham was a black belt at the age of 6.
Yeah. Yep.
Boom! Wow. JC Sheldon, that's cute. You want to poke her in the eye, then push her into a boom Mabry thing? Go ahead. I'll take a take foul, and you'll eat the deck a little bit here. And then we'll get. I love it. I know people aren't going to like this. I like the Connecticut team doing what they did as well.
Yeah. Just go tomorrow. You're on the Las Vegas Strip. What can the Las Vegas expect? So.
Oh, you know what? I'm just going to be me. I don't go in there trying to predetermine anything. I'm dialed in. I need to focus on hitting my shots, making sure I'm executing the schemes right. I'm not focused on the extracurricular activities. And you know what? During that, it was just part of the game. I think the refs had a lot to do with that. It was a build up for a couple of years now of them just not protecting, the star player of the WNBA. And so, at the end of the day, I'm going to protect my teammates. That's what I do. And I'm a team player.
Behind the scenes, the pressure had been building for a long time. Sophie Cunningham didn't confront JC Sheldon on pure emotion alone. From her perspective, she had watched the tension grow game after game, month after month. It wasn't paranoia. It was the recognition of a pattern she believed had become impossible to ignore. Music. To many observers, the repeated physical play involving Caitlin Clark no longer looked like isolated incidents. There were lingering stares from opposing benches, music, extra contact after the whistle, quiet reactions on the sidelines, and conversations that fueled even more speculation. Music. Critics questioned whether Clark truly belonged, while supporters argued she was being tested in ways few others were. Some interpreted the atmosphere as an attempt to wear her down before she could fully establish herself. Sophie, music, however, appeared to notice every moment. While others chose to move on, she seemed to remember every hard foul, every questionable sequence, and every unanswered incident. Everything reached a breaking point when Clark was knocked to the floor yet again during another physical contest. For Sophie, that moment appeared to be the final spark after months of mounting frustration. Music. Her reaction wasn't viewed by her supporters as random or reckless. It was seen as the release of emotions that had been building for a long time. When the cameras later shifted toward the Fever locker room, the atmosphere reportedly felt different. The days of pretending nothing was happening seemed to be over. Music, looking the other way, was no longer enough. Players watched Sophie as someone finally appeared willing to take a stand and say, "Enough." That energy quickly spread throughout the team. Music suddenly, staying neutral no longer seemed like an easy option. In the eyes of many fans, you either stood with Clark or accepted the silence surrounding what was happening. And silence itself began drawing just as much attention. At the same time, critics questioned why the Fever's leadership remained so quiet while their biggest star continued to be at the center of heated debates. Public statements were limited, official responses remained measured, and many supporters wanted stronger backing. Music. Meanwhile, Sophie was taking action on the court in ways that many believed the organization's leadership never could. Her teammates noticed it as well. Music. Because when emotions reached another boiling point, players weren't looking toward executives sitting in the press box. They were looking toward the teammate who had already shown she was willing to fight beside them. But when it's a simple call right in front of your face multiple times, what are you? The WNBA has unquestionably benefited from the enormous attention surrounding Caitlin Clark, with soaring television ratings, record-breaking attendance, and increased merchandise sales bringing unprecedented visibility to the league. But according to Sophie's critics and supporters alike, the real question wasn't about popularity, it was about protection. Sophie Cunningham made it clear she wasn't willing to accept what she believed was a double standard, regardless of where the pressure came from. Music. She didn't hold back, directing sharp criticism toward league officials and those responsible for overseeing the game. Referring to the officiating, she suggested that if the same situations involved her, the outcome would have been completely different. Music. She argued that Clark wasn't receiving the same level of protection, that too many moments passed without meaningful consequences, and that justice on the court felt inconsistent. Then her focus shifted beyond the referees to the league itself. She questioned how a player could generate so much value while many fans still felt she wasn't being adequately defended. Those comments immediately ignited even more debate. Online, the interviews spread like wildfire. Music fans printed t-shirts, homemade signs appeared throughout arena sections, and clips of Sophie's remarks flooded every major social media platform. What she said no longer felt like an ordinary post-game interview. To many supporters, it sounded like a rallying cry, a demand for accountability from a fan base that believed the physical play against Clark had gone unchecked for too long. In that moment, Cunningham became more than just another player. She emerged as one of the league's most outspoken voices. Meanwhile, music critics once again pointed to the silence from Fever leadership. Social media remained quiet, official responses were limited, and the lack of public reaction became part of the story itself. During that silence, many fans argued that the league's reputation continued to suffer. Music. They believed the WNBA was benefiting from Clark's popularity while failing to convince everyone that its brightest stars were being consistently protected. For Sophie, the issue went beyond officiating alone. She argued that the system itself needed to be questioned, that attention and success should be matched by accountability and player protection. This wasn't simply a public relations problem. Music, it had become a league-wide conversation. And with one unforgettable interview, Cunningham placed the WNBA under an even brighter spotlight. The message resonating across social media was impossible to ignore. Either show your stars they're worth protecting, or be prepared to answer why so many fans believe otherwise. The middle ground was rapidly disappearing.
But when it is a simple call right in front of your face multiple times,
the movement suddenly had a face. Sophie Cunningham, the enforcer, the truth teller. The player who refused to wait for a carefully crafted PR statement before speaking her mind. TikTok exploded with dramatic slow-motion edits of Caitlin Clark absorbing hard hits, paired with captions like, "She's getting hammered, and they call it defense." Epic cinematic music echoed beneath every clip of Sophie's passionate remarks. One viral post read, "I've never watched a WNBA game before, but I'd show up to stand with Sophie." Within just 48 hours, her social media following reportedly skyrocketed from around 200,000 to well over 1 million. Her jerseys quickly sold out. Parents began sharing emotional messages online, and even middle school players started imitating Sophie's intensity during practice. It didn't feel like a marketing campaign anymore. Music. It felt like something much bigger had shifted, while many critics argued the league was still frozen, responding with the same familiar talking points. Official statements focused on league conduct, sportsmanship, music, and respect for opponents. But according to frustrated fans, there was little that felt personal, genuine, or directly addressed the growing conversation surrounding Caitlin Clark. Music. At that point, the anger was no longer just about missed calls or controversial officiating. It had become about trust, loyalty, and whether the league truly stood behind one of its biggest stars. Sophie voiced what many supporters believed, arguing that failing to defend Clark risked pushing away the very fans helping the league reach new heights. That message landed with enormous force. Almost overnight, the quote appeared on banners outside arenas, across homemade signs, and printed on t-shirts worn by fans. To many supporters, the issue had grown beyond one player or one game. They believed the league had overlooked one of its brightest stars while taking for granted the passion of the fans who continued to fill arenas, buy merchandise, and grow the sport. In contrast, those same supporters were showing their commitment with their voices, their time, music, and their unwavering loyalty. So take a moment and think about it. Do you believe Sophie Cunningham will be the only player willing to challenge the system, or is this just the beginning? Leave a comment with the next WNBA player you think might speak out. Because if the reaction so far is any indication, this fire is only getting started.
You guys, you can hear it in the video right here. The Indiana Fever fans were chanting, Sophie, Sophie. Sophie's jersey is going to sell out tonight. She's going to be in the All-Star game tonight just from this one play because she was standing on business. It wasn't a dirty play. It was an intentional foul, and it was meant to send a message. And how egregious the referees were and how they were not protecting players. And they especially weren't protecting the number one player in this league, the biggest draw in this league, which